They said it was just a friendly spar, something light, something controlled. But from the second Mia stepped onto the mat, she felt the pressure in the room shift. The guys she trained with were stronger, heavier, and some of them didn't like that she was getting better fast. Still, she showed up every day, tied her gloves, and proved she wasn't afraid. What she didn't know was that this session would cross a line no one expected. Her brother, Athena, former Navy SEAL, known for keeping calm, even in chaos, watched from the sidelines. He trusted the gym, trusted the routine, but as the round began, something changed. Mia's opponent stopped following the rules. His grip tightened. His movements got rough. It wasn't training anymore. It was personal. Ethan stood up, sensing something was wrong. Mia tried to push back, tried to breathe, but the hold only grew stronger. The room fell silent, except for the sound of her struggling to break free. Ethan's eyes locked on the moment everything tipped from competition into danger. And just when Mia's knees buckled and everyone froze, Ethan took one step forward, ready to end the fight in a way no one in that gym would ever forget. Ethan didn't rush in right away. Years of discipline taught him to read a situation before acting, but something about this didn't feel like a simple training slip. He had seen Mia handle tough rounds before. She was strong, focused, and never backed down from a challenge. That was what he admired most about her. But today, there was a different energy in the gym, strange looks, quiet whispers, and attention he couldn't quite place. Mia had mentioned earlier that a few fighters didn't like her joining the advanced class. She thought it was just harmless ego, the kind that fades once people see what she can do. Ethan wasn't so sure. He knew how pride, competition, and insecurity could mix into something messy. And the fighter holding her now? Ethan recognized him. Someone who always pushed too far. Someone who treated every spar like a real fight. Around them, the gym stayed oddly still. No coaches stepping in yet. No teammates calling out corrections. It was as if everyone was waiting to see how far this would go. Ethan's jaw tightened as he watched Mia struggle to free herself. Her movements slowing, her balance slipping. Something wasn't right here, something deeper than a bad round. And as Ethan took another slow step toward the mat, he realized this wasn't just about a sparring match anymore. Something bigger was unfolding, and he still didn't know who or what was behind it. Ethan's instincts sharpened as he reached the edge of the mat, but he forced himself to hold back. He needed to understand why this was happening. Mia had trained here for months without trouble, yet lately she'd mentioned small things, equipment going missing, partners avoiding her, and a few comments that felt more like warnings than jokes. She brushed them off, thinking she was overreacting, but now, watching the way her opponent tightened his control, Ethan knew she hadn't imagined any of it. Across the room, Coach Ramirez watched closely, his expression unreadable. He should have stepped in already, but he didn't. That alone sent another wave of unease through Ethan. The coach had always been protective of his fighters, so why was he holding back now? Ethan followed his gaze and noticed two men near the entrance, clearly not regulars. They stood with crossed arms, eyes locked on Mia as if evaluating something. Mia's opponent shifted his weight, trying to keep her off balance. She wasn't panicking, but she was slowing down, trying to figure out what game he was playing. Ethan could almost see the questions in her eyes, questions she didn't have time to voice. Every muscle in Ethan's body tightened as he put the pieces together. This wasn't random. This felt planned. And the people involved weren't just teammates having a bad day. As he stepped even closer, he could feel the room watching him, waiting, almost daring him to intervene. Something was about to break. He just didn't know whose plan it truly was. Ethan moved closer, each step echoing through a gym that felt too quiet, too tense. Mia was still fighting to stay steady, pushing against the pressure holding her down, but her energy was slipping. She wasn't weak, she was confused. Something about the way her opponent kept glancing at the two strangers by the door made the entire situation feel staged, like they were waiting for a specific reaction. Coach Ramirez finally shifted, taking a half step forward, but he didn't call out. His eyes flicked to Ethan, almost warning him to stay back. That only made Ethan more alert. The coach never hesitated during tense rounds. If he was holding himself still now, it meant something larger was happening behind the scenes, something he didn't want coming to light. One of the strangers pulled out his phone, not to record, but to send a message. Ethan caught the small movement, and his pulse jumped. Whatever they were monitoring, Mia was at the center of it. A test, a challenge, or something tied to why she'd been treated differently these past weeks. Mia tried one more time to twist free, her breath sharp, her eyes flashing toward Ethan. It wasn't fear, it was a silent call for help, a signal that she'd reached her limit. The entire room seemed to hold its breath as Ethan finally stepped onto the mat. The air tightened, the fighters froze, and even the strangers straightened as if bracing for what came next. In that split second, it felt like the whole gym was waiting for one explosive moment. The moment that would break everything wide open. Ethan stood on the mat, ready for whatever came next. But before he could say a word, the gym's side door opened. A woman in a dark training jacket stepped inside, someone neither he nor Mia had ever seen before. The room's reaction was immediate. The two strangers by the door straightened, Coach Ramirez's face tightened, and Mia's opponent quickly loosened his grip as if he'd just been caught doing something he wasn't supposed to. The woman's eyes scanned the room, sharp and focused, landing on Mia first and then on Ethan. There was something official about her presence, not aggressive, but commanding. She gave a small nod to Ramirez, and he finally stepped forward. Though still hesitant, Ethan felt a chill run through him. Whoever she was, the entire gym seemed to shift around her. The tension that had been suffocating suddenly became something else: anticipation. Like everyone had been waiting for her arrival. Mia stepped back, catching her breath, but her confusion only deepened. The woman approached her directly, stopping just a few feet away. "We needed to see how you'd handle pressure," she said softly. "Both of you?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Why us?" The woman glanced at the two strangers, then back at Ethan, because this wasn't just a spar. It was an evaluation. A beat of silence hung in the air before she added, "And now that you've stepped in, the real test begins." Ethan didn't back down. He stepped in front of Mia, his posture calm but ready for anything. The woman watched him carefully, then gave a small signal to the two men by the door. They stepped forward, not aggressively, but with purpose. The whole gym felt like it was holding on to one thin thread, waiting for it to snap. Coach Ramirez finally broke his silence. "Ethan, Mia, this wasn't meant to scare you. It was to see how you react when something feels off." His voice carried a mix of guilt and urgency, like he knew the situation had gone further than planned. Mia steadied her breath. "Why us? What are you testing?" The woman took a slow breath. "Because both of you were recommended for a joint training program. High-pressure scenarios. Leadership under stress. We needed to see the truth, not just skill, but instinct." Ethan exchanged a glance with Mia, the tension easing but not disappearing. He understood now, but it didn't erase the fact that she'd been pushed too far before he could respond. The woman added, "You passed, both of you, but there's something you should know." She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "Your performance wasn't the only thing we were evaluating." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Then what else?" She stepped back, giving a faint, almost knowing smile. "Someone in this gym wasn't supposed to be part of the test, yet they played a bigger role than any of us expected." Mia turned sharply. "Who?" The woman glanced toward the entrance where another figure had silently appeared, watching them with an expression that made Ethan tense all over again. "We'll talk about him," she said quietly, "because he changes everything." The man standing at the entrance stepped forward slowly, and Mia's expression softened with recognition. It was Liam, a quieter member of the gym who always trained during late hours. She'd never had issues with him, but she also never knew much about him. The woman explained that Liam had been observing the gym for weeks as part of the evaluation team, quietly noting how people handled teamwork, stress, and fairness. He had chosen Mia and Ethan because they consistently stood up for others. Even in small moments, no one noticed. Ethan finally let his shoulders relax. The tension in the room faded as Coach Ramirez apologized, explaining that things escalated more than intended and that Mia's opponent would be addressed privately for ignoring boundaries. Mia took a long breath, still shaken but relieved to understand the truth behind everything. The woman handed them both an invitation for the programs, something that could lead to advanced training, opportunities, and new challenges. Mia looked at Ethan, unsure at first, but his encouraging nod told her everything she needed. As they left the gym together, the air felt lighter. The test had pushed them, surprised them, and even scared them a little, but it also revealed their strength and trust in each other. And with that, a new